Good morning to each and everybody that's here this morning. A pleasant thank you for being here. And at this point in time, we would like to say thank you once again. And we're going to have a short address from Tanya Newton, the clinical psychologist with Supreme Counseling for Personal Development.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Our youth are pillars of the future. Yet many face struggles that, if ignored, could lead to self-destruction, crime, or mental illness. Early signs of negative behaviors, aggression, substance abuse, truancy, and withdrawal are often met with punishment rather than support. Instead of labeling these young individuals as problematic, we must recognize their cry for help and respond with compassion. There's a need for early counseling. Counseling is a proactive solution, preventing minor struggles from escalating into major crises. It provides young people with a safe space to express emotions, develop coping skills, and receive guidance. Professional counselors help identify root causes, trauma, bullying, neglect, and equip youth with life skills, emotional intelligence, and resilience. Counseling helps with crime prevention. In a society that is spiraling downhill quickly, counseling plays a crucial role in crime prevention. Many young people who engage in delinquent behavior do so due to unresolved emotional and psychological challenges. By addressing these underlying issues early, counseling reduces the likelihood of youth turning to crime as an escape or coping mechanism. Investing in mental health support is an investment in a safer and more stable society. There's a cost to inaction. Ignoring these issues leads to school dropouts, crime, and mental health disorders, which have long-term societal costs. The expense of rehabilitation or incarceration far outweighs the cost of early intervention. The time to act is now. Parents, educators, and leaders must integrate counseling into schools, youth centers, and homes. We must advocate for accessible mental health services, reduce stigma, and encourage young people to seek help. In conclusion, urgent counseling intervention is not optional. It is essential. By supporting our youth today, we build a healthier, stronger, and safer future for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya Newton. At this point in time, we will have the explanation of our initiatives from the CEO, Mr. Sean Clark himself. Mr. Sean Clark.
Thank you, Russell. A very special good morning to each and every one of you. And I want to thank the media houses that took the time out to join us this morning as we officially launch our campaign. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I am standing before you today not just as the CEO of Supreme Counseling for Personal Development, but as a man who refuses to watch another generation be lost to violence, despair, and hopelessness. We are here today because our children, our sons, and our daughters are in crisis. Every day, young people in our communities battle emotional pain, anxiety, depression, and despair. Too many of them suffer in silence, lost in a world that does not see them, does not hear them, does not reach out to save them. We are at the crossroads. We can act now, or we can continue to count the bodies of our children lost to crime, violence, and self-destruction. But it doesn't have to be this way. Hope should never be out of the reach because of financial hardship. That's why we are here today, to introduce an initiative called Reach One, Save One. I want us all to pause and picture this. A young boy, barely 14, standing at a funeral. The body inside the coffin is his older brother, gunned down in the streets. His mother sobs uncontrollably. His father, absent. His heart hardens. He vows that he will not be the next victim. He will pick up the gun before it picks him up. Let's imagine a teenage girl, only 16, staring at herself in the mirror. She sees failure. She sees pain. She sees nothing worth saving. Her mind whispers, no one would notice if you were gone. These, ladies and gentlemen, are not stories. These are real children, our children, your children. Now imagine what happens when no one reaches them. Without intervention, they become statistics. They join gangs. They fall into addiction. They disappear into the cold grips of Glenderry. Their dreams buried along with them. But what if someone had stepped in? What if someone had seen them, heard them, saved them? The Reach One, Save One initiative is our battle cry. It is our stand against this darkness. It is our commitment that no child should be lost because they couldn't afford help. We are not just counseling young people. We are pushing them. We are pulling them back from the edge, breaking cycles of crime and violence, and giving them the tools to build a different future. But let me make it clear. We at Supreme Counseling for Personal Development can no longer do this alone. The need has outgrown our resources. The calls for help are too many. The cries from parents are too loud. And that is why we need you. That is why we need Barbados. We are seeking the public's assistance through our Reach One, Save One initiative, because together we can change the fate of our children. Our goal, we need to raise $250,000, a small price to pay for 250 young lives saved. Each of these children will receive a minimum of 10 professional counseling sessions, the lifeline they need to turn away from violence, to find hope, to discover their worth. Without this support, we will lose them. And this isn't just about them. This is about all of us. This is about Barbados. A safer, healthier Barbados is one where all of us thrive. We come before you with a desperate plea, not just for support, but for action. Our young people, especially our young males, are in crisis. In 2024 alone, we have lost 34 young men to gun violence. That is 34 males extinguished, 34 families scattered, 34 young men who could have been leaders, entrepreneurs, fathers, but instead their names are whispered in grief at gravesides. The reality in Barbados is chilling. High rates of school violence, bullying, depression, and disruptive behaviors amongst our youth. These are not just numbers, my friends. These are futures slipping through our fingers. Supreme Counseling for Personal Development is a refuge, a lost hope for children. But we are stretched beyond our limits. The demand has exploded. Schools are begging for our presence. Parents are pleading for help. Even students themselves are reaching out, knowing that if they don't get help, their futures are in jeopardy. And yet, our resources are dwindling. Without urgent intervention, we will have to turn some of them away. And tell me, please tell me, who do we choose? Who do I sit in my office as CEO of Supreme Counseling and decide which child do I tell, I'm sorry, we don't have the funds to help you? Which parent do I look in the eyes and say, we know your child is at risk, but there's nothing we can do? We refuse. I, as CEO of Supreme Counseling, refuse to make that choice. And that is why we need Barbados. We are sounding the alarm, not just for help, but for our future. Every life lost to violence is a stolen future, is a future stolen. Every young man who falls to crime is a son, a brother, a leader that Barbados will never see. This Barbados is not just a proposal. This is a cry for help. This is a lifeline. This is our moment to act. We invite all Barbadians and visitors alike to be the change that we want to see. Together, we can ensure that no child is beyond saving. And you would ask, why does it matter? Think about that child at the funeral. Think about that girl in the mirror. Now imagine that after 10 weeks of counseling, instead of anger, he learns to express his emotions. Instead of isolation, she learns she's not alone. Instead of turning to the streets, they turn towards a future filled with hope. That is what Reach One, Save One makes possible. Every dollar is a lifeline. Now here's what we're asking you to donate. $100 gives a child their first step towards healing. $500 provides the foundation for change. $1,000 sponsors a full intervention and a life forever changed. Every single dollar is a chance to rewrite a child's future. You can't give $100, give 10. You cannot contribute 10, give 5. You cannot give 5, give 2. You have 50 cents that you ain't doing nothing with, send it to Supreme Counseling. 50 cents can save a life. We are asking Barbados to join us to make a difference. We cannot afford to stand by. We can no longer afford to stand by. We need businesses, community leaders, and individuals to step forward, to refuse to let another child slip away. This, Barbados, is our moment. This is our fight. This is our responsibility. Together, we will break the silence of despair and crime in our country. How can you get involved? How can you donate? You can call us at 538-9769 or 836-5601. You can donate to our account at Scotiabank, account number 456648. 456648, transit number 66555. Or you can visit us at our office in Pine Hill Road or email our secretary at supremecounselingbb.com. If you can't get to us, call us. We will get to you. Even if it means driving to St. Lucie for $1.50. We are serious about this cause. We will get to you. I want to thank you, Barbados. I want to thank the media. I want to thank the staff of Supreme Counseling. Let's stand together. Let's take action together. Let's reach one. Let's save one. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. At this point in time, I would like to open the floor for the media to ask any questions there needs be.
This crisis that you're talking about, is this across all aspects of society, or it is just restricted to an area of the society?
This crisis that we speak of is all over Barbados. This crisis is in our communities, it's in our schools. This crisis is one that we cannot ignore, and we cannot necessarily pinpoint or say that this is a crisis that is happening in certain so-called bad areas, the areas that we call bad, the areas that we label. Because the reality is that sometimes you have incidences happening in these communities, and when you get the story, the person, for example, doing the shooting or so is not even from that community. Could be from a community that we consider the bigger or better off communities. So no, it is not any one particular community. We are trying to save young people. We are trying to save Barbados, and we are trying to do it one young person at a time, despite wherever in Barbados they come.
But see that the young thing, I remember the late Prime Minister whenever using this word, this young people thing is caught on, and to me it's a buzzword. The problem that we are having in Barbados does not begin with the young people, it begins with the parents. I think that what we need to do right now, it is probably putting icing on the cake or putting elastoplast on the cut. We need to reach parents. And we need to do it quickly, because that is where the problem is, and it's bigger than reach one, save one. So you need to get serious about that, you and your people.
My response to that is that Supreme Counseling for Personal Development, we've always been out there, we've been trying, we have a number of initiatives, and I can pinpoint one to you. We have our FIT program, Families in Therapy. Families in Therapy is where we look at the entire family. Our psychologist who passed years ago, Diane Holder, she always said to me, children are not the problem, parents are. And we've started FIT, where the whole family comes into counseling. While the child is in one counseling room seeing his psychologist, the parent or parents, they are also in a counseling room seeing their psychologist, and simultaneously. And then there are times when both psychologists and the families come together. Because I agree with you 100% on that, on what you've said. Now, the reason we started FIT is because I realized that we had a situation where a mother will bring the child in, a father will bring a child in for counseling, and that parent will sit in the waiting room for 1 hour, or leave the office completely and return when the session is finished. And we realized that while the psychologists are during the therapy, we realized that, you know what, this problem is not really this child, you know. So we really then started our FIT program. So although I agree with you, Supreme Counseling have been trying through our initiatives to reach out to the entire family, reach out to schools, to reach out to communities, to reach out to homes.
The organizations like this and others need to involve Parados, because that is one that used to hear when I was at school, but they don't seem to be doing anything because it lies strictly at their feet.
Again, I agree with you 100%. I am also a tutor with Parados, so I know the good work that is done at Parados, and there is a fantastic relationship between Supreme Counseling and Parados. There are times we get calls at the office from parents, from adults, and we refer them to Parados. And there are times when there are children at Parados that are referred to Supreme Counseling. So that relationship, sir, is already there.
They don't come public and say anything.
Unfortunately, sir, I am not in a position to speak on Parados's behalf.
They need to step up to the plate.
I think Barbados needs to step up to the plate. And if that includes Parados, then it includes Parados. But Barbados needs to step up to the plate. According to my son, it is time that we start all the dry talk and start some serious action in saving our young people. Right where we are beginning, we are asking Barbados, we are asking businesses, we are asking normal Barbadians to come forward and contribute, give money so that we can help these young people. There are lots of young people who need the help. At Supreme's office, we have parents sometimes calling me almost on a weekly basis, wanting help, but cannot afford to pay for the help, and they're breakdown crying on the telephone. And my staff always says to me, especially my deputy director, that my heart is too soft. So you come to me, and although I know that we've exhausted our budget, I still say to the secretary, get that child in here. But we are at the point now where Barbados, it has to be like tourism. Remember years ago we had a slogan, it's everyone's business. Saving our young people and saving Barbados now must be everyone's business.
I just want to get an idea of the increase that you're speaking about, and from like a timeline from when you started to see the numbers grow in terms of people reaching out for help.
A timeline. Let's say from last year, 2024, we really started seeing a massive increase in the calls. And these are only calls from parents. But from probably 2023, late 2022, we've been getting calls from schools asking us, can you bring your program to our school? We need the bullying prevention program at our school. We need the intervention. So the calls have been coming from the schools since late 22 into 23, but individual parents are now calling us as well, seeking assistance.
Could give a percentage, a 20%, 30% increase.
In terms of the calls that we're getting, I have not done any scientific evidence, so I don't necessarily want to just throw out figures for throwing out figures' sake, because this is no poo-poo initiative. I don't want people to believe that we are just throwing out figures. But if I had to hinder a guess, I would probably say that we've had an increase of about 57% in terms of calls coming in. Yeah, I'm seeing your facial expression. It is bad. And what makes it even worse is not only the calls that are coming in, but it's the ages of some of these children. We have parents calling us with 6 and 7 year olds that they are seeking interventions for, that they are seeking urgent help for.
And these are like behavioral issues. What some of the things that you see coming forward?
The majority are behavioral. The majority of them are behavioral issues. My clinical psychologist can tell you that when we perform our psychological assessments, we find a lot of young people suffering with ADHD and features of ADD, attention deficit disorder, and other disorders, that unless these young people firstly get the assessment and then get into serious counseling routine, we are going to continue having problems in Barbados.
So based then on the increase, the 57% increase, you would therefore say that there is a shift in terms of seeking help? Because I know like before, persons from our demographic, let me say Black people, don't really like to go and talk about problems in the home. So you would say that you're noticing a shift?
There is a shift, and I think it's a shift because parents are now at their wits' end and they can no longer handle it on their own. However, we find that although they're called for the initiative, when they get onto the program, and you say to them, well, we're going to see your child or we're going to see your family for 10 weeks in the first instance, sometimes after week 4, they disappear. We call them, they're not answering, they're promised to come, they're not coming because they have seen some progress, so they stop coming. But as soon then as it continues, they're back at us again. And that is because they're not completing the process. It's like you're going to the doctor and the doctor gives you a course of medication and says to you, you have to take this for 14 days. And after day 7, you finish, you're feeling really, really well. So you just throw the rest of the medicine aside. It cannot work like that.
And then lastly from me, you have a timeline in terms of reaching it's 250,000,
Yes.
right? So a timeline you're looking to get that money by?
Yes, we are hoping to be able to raise those funds in 2 months. So the campaign runs from today until the 17th or so of May. However, after we've exceeded that date, Barbadians can still continue to give because the problem still continues.
So that short window of time, that 2-month period, that then speaks to the 57% that you were speaking about. That's
Yes,
how
ma'am.
bad it is.
That's how bad it is, and that is how urgent it is.
Yes, just wanted to ask a question. I heard you would have said that you get children as young as 6. So what are your viewpoints on putting the programs in the primary schools as well? Because the issues don't just start from those in secondary school from 11. It starts as young as 6 and as young as 4. So what are your views on entering the primary school section in Barbados?
I will share my views on that, and then I would ask Tanya, as a clinical psychologist, to also share her views on that. And I agree with you. Supreme Counseling for Personal Development, we would love to get into the primary schools. Actually, I have a plan where I would love to get into primary schools that feed children into the secondary schools that we work with. So, for example, let's say we're working with secondary school AB, and we realize that primary school CD feeds children in to that secondary school. We would like to work with that primary school, because then instead of just having 5 years to work with those children in secondary schools, that would give us at least 9-10 years of intervention. And so we would really like to get into the primary schools to work with children at the primary school level. But again, they concern funds. We need funds in order to do these things. I have a cadre of psychologists who are professional. I have doctors as well as a part of the team. And although they are generous enough where they work with Supreme Counseling and they're not charging us top dollar, I still have to find money to pay them. And even when we decide that we're going to take, for example, an 8-year-old boy and see that boy pro bono, it is pro bono to the mother, but it's not pro bono to Supreme Counseling, because we still have to pay the professionals to do the job that they're doing. Tanya?
The only thing I'd really like to add is that the earlier there's an intervention, the greater the likelihood of a positive outcome. If we start working with children coming from troubled environments from a very young age, we can help the parents to understand other ways of dealing with their children. We can also help the children learn better ways of coping within their environments, possibly changing their behaviors, and then reducing the need to have to see them as they get much older, or seeing the types of outcomes we see in late adolescence and early adulthood.
You're talking about secondary school. No, you want to get into primary schools. You need prevention. How do we do it? Is there an outreach program apart from your office, your standalone office? Do you have or looking to have outreach programs across Barbados so that you can get the folk in St. Lucie, get to some of those disadvantaged children or parents or people in St. Lucie or St. Philip or the remotes of St. Michael. You need an outreach program to make this effective, or not. We're going to be going on like this for ages.
Again, sir, I can say to you that Supreme Council for Personal Development, we started an initiative called the Community Assistance Program. And with the Community Assistance Program, we aimed to decentralize the services that we offer at the office. So we started going into communities. We had sessions at Golden Square in the Pine. We had sessions at Princess Margaret, the Rock, yes. We had sessions at Princess Margaret, and we had sessions at St. Mary's Primary School every Saturday. And we pulled young people from those various communities, and we did things with them like anger management, conflict resolution, thinking with sense, or as some people will call it, critical thinking, alternative to problem behaviors. So we actually took that initiative to the community. And again, that program was short-lived simply because we ran out of funds to execute the program. And yes, we have sought and we are still seeking funds to get that program up and running again. But so far, we have not been lucky.
COVID-19 pandemic instrumental in getting this, or putting some challenge to what you are hoping to do.
Yes, I think so. And I remember just on the heels of COVID-19, I said to Barbadians through the media that when schools reopen, it cannot be business as usual. I remember saying to Barbadians that we cannot jump straight back into teaching Spanish and French and English, but that we had to get the psychologists, the social workers, and so on in the schools for at least the first month or two to look at the psychological impact that COVID-19 had on our young people. I am not confident that we did a well enough job in doing that, but we are still seeing the effects of COVID-19 on our young people, how it have affected them psychologically, and the impact that it has had on the mental health of a number of our young people. And I think we are still playing catch up in some regards. At the end of this exercise, as I said, we are going to work with 250 young people. The minimum 10 sessions that is recommended. There are some young people that I am quite sure that will have to go beyond the 10 sessions. So at the end of the initiative, or the end of raising funds, that does not mean that the initiative will close, but we would like Barbadians to still continue giving, because we will always find young people who need help. We will always find families who are in need of the intervention. I want to thank you for that. Yes, you can send an invoice. I'll tell you who to address it to. I'm not sure who is no, not the Tanya. I cannot remember who is the financial controller at the Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation right now. But when I get that name, I'll let you know who to forward your invoice to, sir. But thank you for that. It is something that we did not consider. I know that we are looking at working with hotels as well, asking hotels to ask their guests to make contributions to the cause. But for sure, on returning to our office, that is something that we will look at. How can we use the regathering outreach program that is currently going on by the government to sell our program to Barbados?
So the initiative Reach One, Save One. I know you were talking about, in your speech, you mentioned the gun violence and whatnot. Outside of that, what if the individual counseling is not all they need? What other services does Supreme Counseling offer that could be of help to those in the community, those in the schools, and so on?
Okay, outside of the counseling services, for example, let's say the psychologist says, well, this child needs, or this young person needs a psychological assessment because we need to get an idea as to what is really happening with this child in order to put the correct measures in place. That service is available where then Ms. Newton, as our clinical, will tailor make a program especially for that child in terms of having recommendations to the school, to the home, and what we can do at Supreme Counseling to work with that child. As I said before, we work with the families as well. And we also have our mentoring program going on. We also work along with the CHAMP mentoring program in St. Philip through the Red Foundation. So all of these are services that extra services that we can put in place to work with these young people.
Any more questions for the public?
All right, if there's no other questions, I want to thank you guys for coming. Thank you for your support. And I really want to ask Barbados to reach out. I'll turn back over to Mr. Graves. Thank you guys so much.
As there are no more further questions, I would say that this press conference has now come to an end. Thank you everyone for coming out today. Thank you for being a part of this initiative that we are starting for 2025. Thank you.